Welcome to Nature Calls, Conversations from the Hudson Valley. Our team's goal is to present science-based information about gardening and all things nature in New York's Hudson Valley. Our hosts are Master Gardener volunteers for the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Columbia and Greene counties, midpoint along the Hudson River Valley. So if you're interested in gardening or nature or just nuggets of information about what's happening outside your door, listen in and enjoy the conversation. Whatever the season, we'll always have something to talk about.
This is Jean.
And Tim.
Stay tuned because we're just starting part 2
of our interview with the Julia's local team.
Well, while we've got you, Daniel, your whole production is organic, right?
Yeah, it's not certified organic.
Right. Well, nobody can afford to be, I guess. Yeah. So how do you choose, you and Henning decide what varieties, and you go through the catalogs and drool all over the choices?
There's a lot of stuff that I just, from my previous experience, that other farms are like, this is a producer I know it's going to
Okay,
give
you arrived with a battery of equipment.
Yeah. And then Henning's like, let's try this and that and this. And I'm like, well, there are always new ones popping up, and you gotta try the new stuff a little bit.
Yeah, no.
But
he's great at keeping me.
But I try to be like, we're gonna need this one.
Yeah.
Do you have spreadsheets? And I mean, it sounds like a huge amount of kind of documentation.
I have done it that way, but we go through what's left over, what's still viable that we have, and then we kind of have our set varieties.
So it's kind of
that we can go back to. Yeah. I don't put it on a spread. I don't know. I just have like a body clock kind of when to put.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I know everything that needs to be planted now.
Well, it's funny because I've worked for farmers who are third generation, and they have stacks of their little notebooks.
Yeah.
They go back
all that,
decades and decades and decades. They can't help themselves. Do you, well, I don't know if you do currently, but are you looking forward to getting to a point where you're going to be selling your produce to other restaurants?
Henning has little ideas about that, or we can do our own little farm stand, but I'm running the business. So I'm like, I am very interested how to use everything that we're growing at Julia's Local in some capacity, whether it's for the guests who are dining in or it's something that we can make for customers to take home.
So nothing leaves the ranch.
That is my preference. That is my preference. I think there's a lot of challenges to think creatively with what it is that our boundaries are.
Okay.
And I want to sort of always be pushing the boundaries with what it is that we're doing. I want to have more reason to keep things in sort of circulating in what it is that we're doing with the community that we have built up and is still growing at Julia's Local. They come there for a reason, and there's a lot of things that we offer, and it's challenging, I think, to think about what it is that we can do with the things that we have and the things that we don't have. There's a lot of things we don't have, but these two are being way too modest. If you were to say, like, visualize what's in the garden right now, sort of row by row by row by row. I mean, we walked through the garden this morning, and there's so much.
And everything's from seed, right?
Mm-hmm. Everything starts from seed. I mean, Henning will, have insomnia in the middle of February. The next thing you know, all these seeds are showing up in the middle. Like, what just happened?
Sounds familiar.
They're just like ordering seeds in the middle of the night. Like, get it together. But yeah.
Back in the day, you ended up with a samurai sword on your toe, Minyan.
Now it's seeds. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's like a little seed addiction.
Oh, yeah.
But they're being too modest. The seeds are started in our garage, little like grow lamps, with great care and great thoroughness. There's a lot of photo documentation which helps us that we try to do so we can remember what did we do a year ago? Did we have this much? What was missing this year? Did we forget something? Just explain what it is that we're growing, say, right now. I mean, Henning and I had a 20-minute conversation the other day about an arugula salad.
Are you going to be doing microgreens all through the winter?
Yeah, we usually run them.
And what else? Can you?
Oh, good. That's
through the winter. So we have root crops in now, like parsnip, watermelon, radish, purple top turnips, rutabagas, carrots, beets.
I love rutabagas.
And then
Actually, I love to say rutabaga.
right now we're
And part-
turning the greenhouses around from tomato production into some hardier greens that can hold up over the winter.
But you're not doing any heating. You're just
No, we don't have any
the natural
electricity
solar.
or
Yeah.
anything over there.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
what can we get started?
Okay.
And this is something I just picked up from, I think it was the first farm I was at in Vermont. They didn't have any heating in there. I've worked at farms that do heat their greenhouses, and that's great. Double row cover on top of everything with hoops under the greenhouse, and then on sunny days open it up and let everything defrost. And you can, if you get a good start on it, you can have greens into February, cutting it a little bit.
It has to jive with the proteins you're serving, right? I mean,
Yeah, we did.
how do you do that? Because I know you serve a lot of fish and you serve a lot of meats and things like that. So again, back to the magician thing. I mean, you really do have to think about what you have in the way of growing out there, but also, how are you going to pair that with a meatloaf or something like that, right? I mean, is that
You do
difficult?
meatloaf?
Or, yeah. Sorry, Jane.
Made with filet mignon.
Yeah. But that is that's a thing, right?
Again, I try not to get in the way of Mother Nature. Produce is the star.
And we did have a
Yeah.
conversation about doing different. We added a greenhouse. So we're like, oh, you don't just want lettuce and arugula and mustards. Yeah, or like, we'll do like a broccoli rub or like mush and some other hardy greens. Try different stuff.
For example, that's a good question. We have the core items on the menu
We don't want
as
it to
entree.
Boring.
Yeah. There's
Have our regulars.
Yeah, we have trout, we have chicken, we have pork belly. We usually have some sort of skirt steak or some sort of filet mignon. So
All locally sourced?
no,
Okay.
no, the trout
That's right.
the trout is from Beaverkill Trout Hatchery in Livingston Manor. That's the star of the restaurant. It's the star of the menu.
Mm.
The chicken is from the Campanelli Poultry Farm in Canosa Lake in Sullivan County.
Yes.
Pork varies, meat varies, depends on where Henning wants to source it. We also serve salmon from the Faroe Islands. We've served lamb from New Zealand.
Yeah.
But what's accompanying and married to the core sort of entree item is whatever's happening in the garden. So on Saturday, we served the pork belly with a really beautiful squash accompanying arugula. And then the chicken, yum yum, was the roasted herb chicken was with collards and mushrooms that we grew in the garden. So like the things that are paired with it, that's the fun part. I mean, Henning's kind of doing that up until like 2 or 3 o'clock that day. Sort of what will be paired with the core item.
So your menu really changes a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to be able to get those core things, and we have something called a snack stand, which is really it's the essence of what we're doing. It's served as a starter, and it's really a crudité on like vegetable. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like every raw vegetable, fermented vegetable, pickled vegetable from the garden that day is served as on a platter, combined with like fresh bread. We make all of our bread from scratch every day. We make 4 different kinds. We serve it with Vermont butter, and that's usually sort of mixed in with something herby from the garden.
Wonderfully.
Yeah. We love butter.
Yeah.
So the snack stand sort of has set the tone. During the winter, that changes. It evolves, and it might disappear for a while. Like someone came in last year in the dead of winter. Where's the snack stand? Well, it's now a cheese board, but it's also like being able to communicate with the people who eat there that you might have had a strawberry this summer. We're not going to have it in December.
Yeah, I guess that's my question is how do you set expectations for that? Because a lot of times people come in and say, oh, I love that steak I had last time with the X, and I'm not seeing that this time.
Yeah,
right?
that's a really good question because it seems so obvious to us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get it. It's like you have these memories. I ate this thing in June. Why?
Tomato soup, for instance.
Get over it. It's not there.
Slap.
But I did. But a lot of what I do, sort of in the dining room, is. Well, I talk a lot and I sort of boss people around, but I really listen and I try to hear what's missing in what I'm trying to communicate. So something as simple as I put a little tiny paragraph on the menu recently that states we grow our own food. from seed, and these are the things that we grow. And even people who had been eating there for a year didn't kind of know that, didn't kind of get that. So it's like we can talk about it all the time, and until you like drive around the corner and see our farm, then you get it, you know.
Education never ends.
Which we're gonna get a tour of the farm right at some bus.
But you know, just really, just a lot of it is talking about it. We talk a lot about the trout and where it's sourced from, and the history of the family who's farming it, and how we get it, and who's involved in growing it, spawning trout.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is just is explaining what we're doing. It seems so obvious when it's on the plate. I mean, we have these huge French breakfast radishes we're serving, and the greens are just hanging off the table, basically. And maybe they're perforated with where the bugs ate it, but it's like sometimes there's bugs in it. Sometimes, you know,
Protein.
yeah.
It seems like people get that. Like,
Yeah,
you're very popular, so people get that.
you know, or it's they sort of get it, and then they see it when they're eating it. They really get it.
Yeah.
Could not be fresher. People are kind of blown away at having something like arugula, never having had arugula that fresh.
Oh, it seems like it's the true farm to table, which a lot of restaurants say that, but it maybe not necessarily is as true as picking it and then putting it on the plate that day, right?
Yeah, like a couple hours later.
Can I go back to the farm?
Yeah.
Yes, go back to Daniel.
Who do you buy your seed from?
I usually try to go with Johnny's a lot. They just
The
have
Vermont Connection?
Yep, and the other Vermont one that's organic. It's fully organic. High mowing. Yep.
Okay.
High mowing. I've been to their whole operation, seen their seed trials and everything, and
And they're both organic?
Johnny's is partially, so they'll sell conventional seeds,
Okay.
but
yeah.
high mowing is fully organic.
Okay. And with Johnny's, they tell you which is which anyway,
Yeah,
don't they?
they
Yeah,
know.
because I've seen their catalog. Yeah. And they have a lot more of the heirloom kind of varieties.
Yeah, I think which one? The striped German.
Oh,
I would
do you-
say, yeah.
with
With the favorite, I think.
Yeah, with the tomatoes, do you go for visual as well? With a lot of the heirlooms are just gorgeous.
A little bit. I think, yeah, that yellow heirloom that we grow in and then there's the purple one, because I stacked it, like we have 4 or 5 kinds at any time in the tomato salad, and we stack it up in its colors. Yes, the visual. Is that why we selected? No, it just happens. So
Yeah.
I have decided, we have decided, I guess a couple of years ago now, there's no reason to grow any other cherry tomatoes than Sun Gold.
Sun Gold Cherry.
Just let
You don't even have.
you let them go feral, right? You just let them reseed themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. They're volunteering all over the place.
Well,
yeah.
yeah. What about beans?
We haven't really grown a lot of
No?
beans. We have grown some.
Some green beans. So yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of the soup beans that are also gorgeous. I'm thinking on the visual again with the organic.
We are in, I would say, like, what, 4 years in now, and we're just starting. I think
Yeah.
it's like we got to develop. We have space limitations.
Oh, sure.
And 1 acre. We're surprised how much we go through in a restaurant, actually. And the rotation of crops, the resting and the cover crops, and so, like, I think I mentioned it at the top here that we're scratching the surface.
And that's a small area you have, and you've got to maintain the quality of that soil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not becoming a challenge, but it's we get more and more bug pressure we got to deal with, and things like that. That when we there was a lawn there a couple of years ago, and a bunch of trees and shrubs.
There's only a small area was a garden.
So now you do the Japanese beetle bloom every August?
Yep, there was hardly any bugs the first year, and then there's one now. I just
Yeah.
Or you inherit all.
I remember telling Henny, I'm like, they will come.
So what's your dream crop that you haven't grown yet?
Dream crop, man. I get to grow pretty much whatever. That's why there's so many eggplant. But
Oh, now we understand the egg.
And that brings up my question that I've been planning.
Mystery solved. There it is.
Like the question. Henning knows what I want to ask.
Hence, we got a star dish of the eggplant parmesan.
Yeah.
Because of his affliction with parmesan.
And baba ganoush.
Baba ganoush.
Tell me about baba ganoush.
It's the eggplant puree.
Okay.
It's North African, Mediterranean. North African, probably the word has something to do with Morocco, Tunisia.
Cooking in the tagines.
Yeah.
No,
But it's an eggplant puree. You burn the eggplant on the open fire or in a grill or something very high heat to get a little smokiness. You burn the skin and then you cover it to let it steam itself, and then you peel off the skin. It's a little bit messy, and then you cut it gently. You add garlic and lemon and cumin and what else? Tahini maybe.
See, it sounds easy. Always it sounds easy, right? No, right? It's not.
Well, you just and then you
Yeah, it's just mushy eggplant.
you can cut it gently with a knife and make it like some people call it eggplant caviar sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of eggs or seeds in it, I like to make it quite smooth in the blender. Yeah, it's a very lovely spread. We make a lot of, for some reason, I make a lot of those Mediterranean. I make muhammara. That's fun to say too.
Yeah, what is it?
It's a red pepper spread. Red pepper and walnut. Same type of spices. The Mediterranean, North African, Middle Eastern. It's in line with hummus, and I love making these things because it's much more flavorful than other like.
So it's the
mole.
intensity.
Yeah, it has a little punch, but it's like cumin, lemon, garlic, and tahini.
And we should add that you also you can actually order things that on menu from your website, correct? Like chili and things like that.
Yes, we started putting ourselves out there during COVID when we were renovating. It started at Henning's Local. Like everyone, he had to pivot and change what he was doing at the restaurant because there was no dining. And so within a week, he started a little online store. It was March, and he made comfort food that you could pick up. He had already had a very serious, hardcore clientele who were very loyal and dedicated to the restaurant. So they already knew that whatever he made would be great. But it was things he never made before for the restaurant. So chicken pot pies and vegetable pot pies and soups and stews and things that would hopefully make you feel good and nourished at home. So he had to kind of stop doing the renovation at Julia's Local, get back down to Henning's Local. He was doing it pretty much all by himself with one of his cooks, sleeping on a cot in the restaurant and just like doing it 24/7. He would peel off about a quarter of what he cooked, brought it to Greene County, and I started a home delivery service on and off for 18 months. And I would bring these soups and stews around and meatloafs around to people's homes. And that's actually how I got to really start meeting people and getting to know where people lived. And if I could go to East Jewett or Durham or Cornwallville or Rensselaerville, maybe they'll come to my restaurant. And I also started to learn who was friends with who.
Right.
So this couple in Cairo was friends with Wyndham friends. And I thought, I hope they'll come to the restaurant and it will be a central meeting place. So I kind of had this map in my head of all of our kind of core people.
Happenstance, yeah.
Yeah, and I was very, very, very anxious during COVID. So driving around a place that I had already, in my mind, lived for almost however many years, 20 years, I really got to know where I lived because it was the people who lived here too. When I was living, in my house by myself, pre-Henning, I really only knew my neighbor across the street, JD's grandpa, my neighbor to the left, Saul, the post office lady, and the librarian. So this kind of pushed me out of my own, I'm a people person, but it kind of put me out of my comfort level to really go on people's doorsteps and get to know them. And in some cases, I was the only person they saw all week.
Okay.
I got to learn, are their kids at home they're homeschooling? Are their kids in college? Are they single? Are they single moms? So I got to kind of know a little bit about them. People were quite open to sharing information during COVID as I would make the rounds.
So has it been a hard transition from COVID in terms of now you're not doing that, right? You're not doing that.
No, we keep
right?
the tradition by having it available.
Right.
We really do that for our core customers as we keep that little frozen, now we call it Henning's Viking freezer. So what we do is we make small batches, immediately freeze it. And I thought it would really only appeal to the people who had already had that kind of food during COVID. But now it has become something where is a problem solver. People have
Right.
company coming over.
Right.
Someone came and bought a couple chicken pot pies for their company so they don't have to cook it. They know it's going to be yummy. They know it came from us. And it's not store-bought. It's homemade.
Right.
And so we just have continued doing that. It's actually a really important part of the business. To keep this little business going, we need to have every and any vehicle that we can offer to honestly just like pay the bills.
Sure.
We started these cooking classes. That was a way to utilize the space. We have very serious home cooks who eat at our restaurant. And they've been so much fun. We've done knife skills, just basic knife skills, get people into the space, people who already eat there, who got to spend time with Henning. And that was an eye opener for me too. It's like, I know Henning knows a lot of stuff, but it was a lot of stuff.
All this stuff sounds like brilliant business skills to me.
It's great until you have to pay the oil bill, I was like, I'm learning myself. I never ran a small business. I worked for very, very, very smart business people, and I've been very lucky in that I've taken a lot of what I've learned to my own business. But there's certainly things in running a small business in a small town that there's limits. Things cost a lot of money. Putting it all together, we're also a non-tipping establishment.
Yes.
So
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was, again, that's part of the Julia's local ethos, is that the people who work there should make a good living. And I had spent a lot of time in my previous life working in the art world in Europe. And people who work in hospitality and work in restaurants, it's an excellent job. And I wanted to, I hope, attract people who would work with us and give them stability of a job and not rely on passing that off to our customers to know what we're gonna make when they walk into work. Also, the space is an old house, so it's very carved up. There's lots of different rooms, nooks and crannies, and I wanted us to all work as a team. I didn't like this idea that there's a front of house and a back of house. We're all one team, and we're all trying to take care of the people who come there while taking care of ourselves. And I didn't want there to have any tension and anything like, oh, someone got the better table, the bigger table, and then I just did a lot of research during COVID about the history of tipping in America is quite dark. And it was really started in earnest after emancipation as a way not to pay Black porters on railroads. So I just didn't like the history of it. I really did it to have, hopefully, attract and keep good staff.
And it has a very good feel, I think, when you're a customer. So I think you've succeeded.
Thank you. Well, it's just kind of like, it's kind of what it costs. And they're sort of like, and it's not like we tack on.
Right.
It's not tacked on. And we do talk to people about that when they first come. That's what it costs to eat here. And Henning and I talk about this a lot. What does it cost to just spend the night in our restaurant? What should it cost? Is it this much a person? Is it this much a person? We want people to come back. We want the prices to be affordable enough where you can come back, not just for your birthday, where you come back, you bring friends, you come on a Wednesday night to have a casual dinner out instead of going to get fast food or something like that. And a place where you feel welcome and a place where people know your name.
I think you've accomplished that.
Well,
amazingly.
And you know what else? I think that kind of answered your usual closing question.
Why don't we ask it anyway?
Go ahead.
I'd love to hear their answer to this. We always ask the question, and it maybe is more applicable to gardeners, but maybe not. We always ask kind of, in these really troubled times, like, what gives you hope for the future? I want to hear from everybody, really.
What gives you hope?
What gives me hope? Yeah. Raising children that you hope can do a better job of stewarding the earth.
That's a great answer. Make sure they do.
Yeah, I mean,
I have great hope for
him.
his kids too.
Okay, great. Great.
I'm just putting it on their shoulders. 6 and 9.
That's great ages.
They'll solve the words.
Yeah.
I try to take a much longer view when it comes to hopes that you say hard times right now, and it's like inflation is real, and we have less money at the moment and stuff. The times we did have more money, like I had hopes then too, and I look forward to the longevity of the project that we are working on currently. This is our little bubble that we are working on, and it's evolving. We are attracting staff, like she just mentioned, and we are attracting customers, and it becomes the whole thing. And I feel like the longevity of it is like almost like having a mortgage, where it's like sometimes it's hard to pay it, sometimes it's easier. And one day, you're done. So,
Julia, you want to pipe in at all?
It's so kind of parallel to what Henning was saying. I'm like an eternal optimistic gloom and doomer. So I had spent a lot of my previous career sort of spreading out around the world. Paris, Hong Kong, London, LA, all these places, and just like taking the message out to like the globe at large. That's like very exciting and really interesting, but not that deep. I have found being in small rural community is that I really feel like I can make a difference here. And I think a lot about this photographer I actually worked with about 20 years ago, who was considered the preeminent, he would call himself an anti-war photographer. His name's James Noctway. And he went all around the world to horrible things happening in places around the world. And he would bring those stories like mostly through Time magazine. And I remember we did a little sort of book tour lecture circuit. And a lot of the questions were, what can I do? I can't go to Rwanda. I can't go to like the Sudan. And he's like, well, you can do something in your own community. You can make a change in your own community. And you don't have to be a war photographer or an anti-war photographer. Do something in your own community.
Word.
And I always like took that with me. And I thought that, yes, we're running a restaurant, but to me, it's really 100% about being a place that you can call your own home. We have so much fun getting to know the people who come to the restaurant, getting to hear what they're going through. We've already have people where now they're having babies, who are coming to the restaurant. My hope is that we're going to be able to be part of people's lives, I hope for a long time. And in some cases, see their children grow. I've seen Daniel's children grow. There's a couple who was in the restaurant the other day. They were so excited. They come all the time. They were one of my original COVID customers, I call them. And when I first met them, their kids were in high school. They have now graduated from college. One of them just got engaged, so you're part of their lives through the restaurant. Food can be this great connector. So for me, the hope is that I can get to know more about myself in running this small business.
I think those are all really great answers. And it's kind of parallel to when we talk to gardeners about making a difference on your own property, then multiple people doing that, and then having some real impact upon the environment. So really interesting and great to have you all.
Thank you
so much for having us.
That concludes another episode of Nature Calls, Conversations from the Hudson Valley. We would like to thank Xander Powers and Devin Connolly from the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Columbia and Greene Counties for production support. And a special thanks to our listeners for joining us on this episode of Nature Calls, Conversations from the Hudson Valley. You can find links to any of the topics mentioned in this episode at our website at ccecolumbiagreen.org. Comments and suggestions for future topics may be directed to us at columbiagreenmgv@cornell.edu or on the CCE Master Gardener Volunteers of Columbia and Greene Facebook page. For more information about CCE of Columbia and Greene, visit our website or visit in person during business hours at our campuses in Hudson or Acra. Cornell Cooperative Extension provides equal programming and educational opportunities.